go. Welcome, welcome to day 5 of our Mineral Recharge Challenge. Today is just an integration day. We're going to recap everything that we talked about this week together, and just kind of bring our thoughts together and have some closing thoughts. Whether you're watching me live or catching the replay, I want you to use this as a day to just integrate any shifts that you felt in your body, in your mind, in your spirit, in your womb, in your heart. And so let's just start by acknowledging the courage that you had to have to give this a try. I know I haven't been talking about easy topics. They've been kind of heavy, but this challenge can be a turning point or a threshold for you if you choose it to be. So this is about choosing what you're going to do with this shift in your consciousness, with these realizations after today. I want us to acknowledge the courage to show up for this challenge. But with all change, it's really not about the flash in the pan or just that one moment. But we want to think about what's going to keep us powerful and healing and moving forward, staying encouraged, even making the hard sacrifices that may be coming up for us. And I'm speaking to myself too, y'all. I got this surgery coming up on the 20th. That's right around the corner. And, I just have to anchor myself in my truth and reclaim even deeper trust and devotion to this holy body. So I want to give you that invitation too. In this challenge, I have definitely been setting my personal intentions and healing out loud because I feel like this is so big that I can't sit on it even while I'm in the middle of my own journey. I think it's so important to hold space for, to provide the information, to get us down to the ultimate source of truth, which is this body and what it's telling us. And the mineral patterns are the body's language to tell that truth, to give us a deep snapshot into what's happening mentally, emotionally, with our detoxification and our organs. Man, I really love how it tells us not only what's happening physiologically, but also psychosomatically. So it's telling us what's happening emotionally, what's happening in some of your thought life as well when we start to read these patterns. So let's kind of review what we talked about and through over these 5 days. With day 1, we really jumped into looking at the toxic burdens. We looked at, okay, what is actually driving our symptoms? And the level of toxicity that we face is not one dimensional. So like we talked about the environmental toxins. I feel like all of us are so aware of that, right? There's been so much conversation publicly about the environmental toxins. But then we got deeper into looking at how our conventional dental treatments can be a huge source of toxins and endotoxins that are created within the body and not necessarily externally, and how we have to begin to name those toxic burdens so that we can manage them, but also the importance of opening up these detoxification pathways in the body through the liver, enzymatic processes, through the lymphatic system, through our excretory systems with urination, sweating, and the colon, and making sure that our body is prepped and able to move the toxic load out without too much stress. So that was day 1. And on day 2, we really got deeper into naming and mapping the mineral imbalances and embracing a new language for our body through the lens of minerals. Minerals are the spark of life. They literally give us the spark so that we can maintain our electromagnetic power in this body. So we need to understand them. We need to know them as a language and speak it, and at the very least, know what our minerals are doing in our bodies. And then on day 3, we went live and we talked about the medical and nutritional injury that we have sustained as a collective. We named the trauma. we locate it in the tissues of our body. But we also gave ourselves self-compassion and really learned about those three elements of self-compassion. To review that is self-kindness, mindfulness, and common humanity as a way and an antidote to battle the residual psychological and emotional effects of the medical and nutritional injury that we have sustained. We made it clear that this has been a form of medical suppression and a systematic assault and injury on our persons as human beings. And understanding those truths, now we get to reclaim our autonomy, we reclaim our inner authority, and we can recognize where we have collapsed into medical authority or may still be collapsing and where we would like to bring that to an end. So there's been a lot of opportunity for internal reflection, really understanding how we got here so that we can make a plan that fits where we need to go. And we really got deep into thinking about how um, the medicines, the holistic healing that the previous generations were focused on are not always applicable to what we face now. What we face now is unique unto this generation. And with that being the case, we have to have modern solutions for modern problems. So I want that to stick in your mind, because I don't want you to judge where you are based on anybody else, not a present peer, not a past person, because your body has gone through its own journey and it has its own truth to tell. And your body remembers every trauma is in the tissues, right? And so we get to respond to what has happened with us without comparison, with gentleness, and with self-compassion. And I mean a radical level of self-compassion. Every day I want you to wake up, look at yourself in the eye, and send the love that you would give to other people to yourself first before you get up and you go deal with other folks, especially those of us that are in helping professions as we're also healing. It's so important to get up first thing in the morning and spend at least 5 minutes, an hour if you can, getting into yourself, setting that self-compassion intention, setting the right tone for your thought life for the day, really getting in touch with the part of you, your core essence that cannot be assaulted by any injury that is man-made. That core essence of you will speak first thing in the morning. And so take time with that part of you. So I hope that these 5 days have not just been a challenge, but a form of reinitiation and reconnection into your body's truth and a feeling of hope, a feeling of solution, that change is possible. So let's talk about two case studies just very briefly, because I really like to talk about how other people have healed, because I think it gives us that sense of like, if they can do it, I can. So the first person I want to talk to is a PCOS case. So this young lady came with a lot of fatigue and unwanted facial hair and irregular cycles. And so when we ran her hair analysis, we noticed that she's what's called a slow oxidizer. And essentially, your minerals tell the story of how fast or slow you're able to metabolize what you put into this body, how fast or slow your body is able to generate energy from the fuel that you put in here. And so her body was on a slow speed, and she had low magnesium and she had very high calcium levels. When we were able to balance this all out, for one, she was able to sleep better, just have better sleep, and not be so jumpy. I don't know if you've ever been in that state in your body where little things kind of startle you. She was able to soothe that and not be as easily startled. But the biggest thing that changed for her was the reduction, and then eventually 2 months later, the total eradication of the unwanted facial hair. And for someone else, that might not be a big deal when, she was able to balance her mood, her cycles, even her confidence was higher because she was more well rested and her metabolism began to pick up. However, as a woman, especially if you are a feminine presenting woman, that can be a real hit to your self-confidence to have to deal with unwanted facial hair. Even if you grow into it and you just learn how to deal with it, it could still be something that just nags you in the back of your mind. So we were able to free up that emotional energy for her by going through a therapeutic level of mineral balancing. This is not just go to the store and get a bottle of magnesium and everything is going to be okay. When I run your hair test, I am also working with a company that allows me to customize therapeutic levels of minerals so that I can quickly get you back into a better state, a better way of feeling. And we also work through binding toxins. So based on whatever your toxic panel came back as you being high in, we're able to bind those heavy metals and allow the body to have an easier time in those lymphatic, the drainage systems, to be able to detoxify. So this is a therapy that's based on minerals being in a much higher dosage and a custom dosage than what you would just generally find in the store. I really want to make that clear because sometimes we get in that I'm just going to do it myself type of mode, and I'm guilty of this. But I make sure that I order my own test, honey. Like I just ordered mine Friday. So that I would see what I'm at before I go into surgery and have a custom supplement ready to go for me when I come out of surgery. So I am saying this not just to harp on a point, but I noticed this behavior in myself. So I know if I'm kind of guilty of it, we are as a collective probably having these same thoughts. And I don't want you to fall into that, like I did. So the second case study is about type 2 diabetes. So this client came to me with lots of fatigue, lots of cravings. Um, Weirdly enough, just a very fearful state where her nervous system was so amped up all the time, that she was very just afraid of things, right? She had a real sense of needing to be in control of everything. And so we worked together to look at her mineral pattern. And one thing that really stood out again was the low magnesium, but she also had low potassium and high calcium. So as you can see, man, these kind of mineral patterns will show up and start to show you like, wow, when someone has a blood sugar issue, when someone's dealing with PCOS, there are common mineral patterns that we see start to show up because minerals are universally applicable. If you have a human body, you have minerals in it. That means you follow mineral patterns, and how you're presenting will show up in your hair test. And so we were able to balance those levels out, and she was able to reverse her insulin resistance, get back to a normal A1C. But most importantly to me is the emotional piece. When we have more emotional quiet inside of ourselves, when our minds are more steady, we're not afraid as much. When our nervous system is more steady, we just get a lot more from life. I feel like we're able to connect with people easier. We're able to connect with ourselves. We're able to connect with our own intuition. And so when we have blood sugar chaos, when we have low magnesium, high calcium, low potassium, this translates to you losing a certain quality to your life. And so this level of healing did not come from guessing or trying to throw spaghetti at the wall to just hope that if we just supplemented magnesium, everything would be okay. That's not how it worked. It came from testing, being precise, and getting people relief. Now, in terms of timelines, I've seen people heal within 3 months of therapeutic mineral rebalancing. Some people need much longer, 1 and 2 years. So I'm not going to sell you a pipe dream, right? Everybody's an individual, and it really depends on the level of medical and nutritional injury that you sustained in your lifetime. It depends on how far into nervous system dysregulation your system has been and for how long. And so we don't want to set, an unrealistic expectation, but I think it is comforting to know that there's different answers there that are based on the root of what is going on. And as we begin to heal the root issue, you will see some immediate benefits, like just better mood, better energy levels, and just a sense of comfort and having an answer. And it's not just a question mark, or I have to deal with this and just take medication and deal with the side effects of that medication. So essentially, what we have come together to learn about, when we just boil it down to its core, this is a new era of feminine healing. We are injury informed, but we're not anchoring our identity in trauma. We are focusing on our power as individuals. We are body literate. We don't have to outsource our truth to labs or diagnoses alone. We can look at other sources of truth. So, in addition to the hair mineral test, we can take our basal body temperature in the morning when we first wake up to monitor our metabolism. We can take our pH of our urine and our saliva. We can take our blood pressure. All of these are data points and information. We can take a symptoms log of how we feel every day and also how we feel emotionally. We can track our sleep, our hunger, our mood, our energy, our cravings as more data. So all of this is part of body literacy. But we also can use this modern tool like hair analysis and therapeutic mineral balancing because we're not in this silo where we're just exempt from modern problems just because we have a inclination towards holistic or non-toxic remedies. It doesn't exempt us, and that's so frustrating. But it's the truth of living in this day and age. And the sooner we can learn it, the sooner we can adapt, the sooner we can use what actually works in this day and time. So even though we are using modern tools, it doesn't take away the fact that this work that we have tapped into is sacred, is spiritual, is cellular. When we restore our minerals, we restore the memories of who we actually are. We restore our original design. We reclaim our bodies. We reclaim our confidence, our voice, our emotional stability. So, I want you to drop in the chat or come off mute and just share with me during this 5-day challenge, what has been like your biggest aha moment or takeaway or a confirmation or a personal truth that you're walking away with? What's been your biggest aha moment or your biggest takeaway from this 5-day challenge? And if you're watching a replay, drop it in the comments as well.
Hi.
Hey.
So I'll share. I'll say that for me, the biggest aha moment for me is that the thinking that I had 20 years ago is what we're talking about now. And where I was being ignored from my health care professionals and what I was saying to them for some reason didn't make sense to them. Now there are professionals out there now that I say it, they're like, yeah, it makes sense what you're saying. Cause so that lets me know that the information has always been out there.
Mm-hmm.
People know. It's just that maybe in the traditional American Western medicine, maybe not. I'm not crazy.
No, you're not.
So because like one of the things that I was complaining about to my doctor is like, I can drink a gallon of water and it pass through me, but my body still doesn't feel like it absorbed any of that water. And they were like, that doesn't make sense. No. I'm like, no. I'm telling you, I'm drinking the water, but I'm not being hydrated. I could tell them I'm eating the food, but it's like the food is just passing through me. My body isn't absorbing any of the nutrients from the food. I can feel like my body is being starved. And they said I sound like I was talking crazy. So.
Oh, girl, the medical gaslighting is real.
Yes.
And so I'm excited because I've been working on this essay to really talk about what happens when we collapse into medical authority. Because I think it needs a thorough analysis, reflection, and tools, also like community.
Hmm.
Because when we think about medical and nutritional injury, I really had to think about in my own life, like, where did this really start, though? Where did it really start? And I realized it started the moment I collapsed into a medical authority on my body outside of me.
Right.
I started thinking about the time I collapsed. And sometimes that collapse is not total, it can be partial.
Right.
For example, that conventional dentist that I went to that was not hearing me. And he wanted me to get an x-ray. And I was like, I don't need an x-ray. I need a 3D scan. And I still let him do that x-ray, even though I knew that I didn't need that. I knew that I wasn't going to go with his treatment plan. I knew that the 3D scan was the only thing that could tell me what I needed. But I collapsed. Even though I never went back to this office, I didn't let them continue with the treatment plan. It was a partial collapse. And I looked back like, why did I let that happen when I know that that's an exposure to radiation? And I know that if you want to get an x-ray, you have to prep your body for that. I didn't even do that. And so I look back on it and I realized that I was in so much distress knowing that I had infection. Like I could feel it, when your body's draining a lot,
Yeah.
you're fatigued and swollen and inflamed. And I think under that duress, I was in that fight or flight freeze state. And in that freeze state, you just kind of comply. You want to people please on to others to kind of get this over with as soon as possible or get the hell out of wherever you're at that feels like a danger. And so I learned that it's even more important for me to be extremely strategic with the providers that I choose and make sure that I'm walking into an environment that is friendly to my nervous system from the very start. And if I see that it's not, I have to use my tools, the nervous system regulation, to help myself get out of that and not fall into a freeze response. So I'm with you, girl. Like, unpacking the collapse into medical authority is a whole thing, and it's really what I'll be like diving into as community medicine next. But I just want to give you that affirmation that you're just a human being that had a human response, to a threatening situation.
And yeah, and just encourage everybody to have grace with themselves, you included, because even as a medical professional, it doesn't, when you're put in that situation, you're vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
and you're scared. And even as a fighter in that moment, you can't fight for yourself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I understand, because all of that mine happened in my 20s. I'm 45 now. So in my 20s, and just bulldoze, even when I was speaking up for myself, they still were able to bulldoze over me. And I didn't like that. So now I think my providers think I'm hostile because I go in there with such a firmness that they already know. Don't offer me any drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Because they'll say, oh, wait, but you're probably going to find something that's more natural or healthy, or you can try to do it with food. I'm like, yes. So they are, I mean, I had to go in there. I go when I initially meet them with such a strongness, not hostile, not violent, but I'm so assertive
Mm-hmm.
that the tone, they know, don't even come with me when they'll say, I'll still offer it to you because so you know it's available. Okay, thank you, I appreciate it. No. And they don't try to talk me into it. And it's unfortunate that I have to go because I look young. I'm very mild and light spoken, and I'm a small statured woman, and I'm non-hostile. But I have to bring that out of me. It's like, they don't respect it, so they're gonna respect my crazy because I do have it in me. I got that dog in me. And so I have to go in there prepared naturally to
Mm-hmm.
already go in there with a bark.
Yeah, I definitely get it. My partner, he said that he worked in the hospital for a number of years, and he noticed that the patients that made it out were the ones that made the most fuss, did not go along with it just because you said it. They kick back, and I'll say too, from just my time in helping women birth in the hospital, I noticed either they had a very targeted team from the jump that was already on the same page, or they were very strong, very assertive, and were asking lots of questions, never was allowing anyone to pressure them into anything. So I think there's a lot to take away from what you shared. And for anybody listening, like, it's not easy, to, because you're already vulnerable. Your nervous system is a human being's nervous system. So sometimes you can fall into just natural stress responses. So don't beat yourself up, but we can do a lot to protect, to prepare, and to remember that this is a warfare
Hmm.
for our feminine beings, for these human bodies. This is a warfare, and we cannot remember to forget that. So let's see, Nataki shared. The biggest takeaway is that I'm not exempt because I eat healthy and actively practice yoga and move my body. I need to know there is a deeper level of healing with minerals, nutrients, etc., and to give myself grace and really listen to my body through this healing journey. Yes, girl. I mean, because it's so humbling. It's so humbling, which is why I really am pushing to get in touch with a lot of practitioners and healers and wisdom keepers, so that we can get a hold of this and break into this level of consciousness around healing on a collective level, because then that's just reaching a lot more individuals, right? So I feel you, and I think we are all on the same page, and we just got to give ourselves grace and compassion. But now we're operating with a different operating system. We've upgraded, but by participating in this challenge, you have upgraded your operating system. You get to look at your body from a different lens, right? And so, practically speaking, what I offer to help everyone listening is the breakdown of your hair analysis. It's going to tell you what your metabolism is doing. The metabolism is literally a snapshot of how your cellular functioning is. And so that's very important to understand. And what's really deep is with metabolic typing, looking at whether your metabolism is slow or fast. When you're talking about eating and feeling like your food was moving so fast through your system that you weren't absorbing nutrients, all of this goes back to what's called your oxidation or your metabolic type. And in my early days of training with Dr. Laila Africa, he broke down the fast and the slow oxidation types. What was so powerful about the hair analysis, it confirms what I learned from naturopathic training, in this very black and white way to confirm what I already learned. And so it takes it deeper. And then we look at what heavy metals have you been exposed to. That's so important because we don't want to do general cleansing. There are certain binders out here that are just way too harsh depending on the state of your body. So you'll have people doing heavy metal cleanses, parasite cleanses that are just very general and non-targeted. So for example, if we know that you're having like a lot of digestive symptoms and issues that point towards a possible parasitic infection, I would run this hair test. And this is my first like go-to thing as a tool to powerfully assist you. But this is not the only tool in the toolbox. I have the ability to run what's called a GI map test, and it will tell me exactly the type of parasites, bacterial yeast overgrowth that you're dealing with. For example, I had a client who was dealing with E. coli. Well, I mean, helping with the binders that we had her on and the mineral balancing was going to take her far, but I had to specifically address the E. coli in her system or else she wasn't going to fully heal. So this is a very introductory, like this is the first thing I want everyone to do for themselves type of tool, right? But it's not the end of the road. I want you to know that there are many tools that we can use to help you heal and be as targeted as possible without guessing. So once you start with the hair test, you get enrolled into a 14-day mineral reset program. It's going to give you some habits to really start putting into place in general, to focus on nutrition, to focus on minerals, and having those mineral rich, nutrient dense foods in your everyday life. Then we'll get your results. Most of the time I get results within 3 to 5 days, business days from when we send off your sample. And then once we get the results back, both you and I will receive the results. I will develop your 12-week plan. You'll get a at least 12 to 14-page report detailing everything that I found that I think is important and how we need to act on that with your dietary changes, supplement that we will order for you, lifestyle, changes, things like that. For example, let's say that you have really low magnesium and potassium. This is very common, really, in this modern life. What I might start looking at is, okay, tell me about your bedroom arrangement and how you're sleeping. Are you close to electrical sockets? Do you have a lot of TVs or electrical appliances in your room? Do you have Wi-Fi set up in that space? Do you have a lot of exposure to 5G, Bluetooth, and EMF? Electromagnetic frequencies. Because when your charge is low, literally your magnesium and potassium levels are low. That means your charge, the voltage of your cells is low. You are more highly impacted by these types of environmental toxins. So we would basically cleanse your environment of any 5G electromagnetic disturbance that we possibly can. And so that's just an example of a change that we would make based on your results. That's just not as simple as take a supplement. And then we'll have a 60-minute private session to really talk about the results, give you time to be coached and supported through this. And you're able to take what's called a mineral prep supplement during that window while we're waiting for your report and your results. So the mineral prep supplement is a very low dosage mineral supplement that also has humic and fulvic acid, which is a very gentle binder that can begin to bind toxins in your system without depleting your minerals. So you're able to add that to your order when I place the order for your hair kit. And so as you can see, it's a very customized individual path that helps you to get insight into how to help your body. But you're never alone through the process. It's a lot of support, text-based support as well. And so once you get through that process, you might be wondering, like, what are the next steps? So after that process, we can choose if you want to just go solo from there and, implement your plan on your own, or if you want to have continued coaching with me. That's also an option. I do also work with 2 other colleagues. So once you get back into the back end of my systems, you'll notice that you have options to book sessions with me. But also I have a fitness coach on staff. Her name is Deneen, Coach Deneen, if you want to do more personal training and fitness coaching. And I have an acupuncturist on staff who is a licensed acupuncturist, and she provides nutritional therapy from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective. She will provide you with Chinese herbs as well as insight into the meridians and acupuncture points that you should be stimulating at home through acupressure. So all of that becomes available to you long-term once you become a long-term client. But I don't offer all of that in the front end because, again, this tool is so powerful. And I do think it's the first step for any client of mine to take, because it's not only a tool that looks at your mineral patterns and your toxic exposure, but it tells us so much about what's going on with you spiritually and energetically. For example, let's say that magnesium pops up and is a mineral of concern, then that tells me that you're having issues with surrendering, allowing life, allowing people to show up for you. You might have an issue with the trust in divine timing, like you try to control and force outcomes rather than allowing yourself to be pleasantly surprised by divine intervention. And essentially you feel tense with your life. And so we would explore those things in terms of the emotional and the energetic and the spiritual implications of what this mineral imbalance looks like. Another example with potassium. Potassium allows us to be heart-centered in our living. When our potassium levels are low, we are really heady. Like we just kind of live in the mental space. And it makes it hard to balance between giving and receiving. So you may overfunction a lot and then resent other people. This can also look like emotional detachment or just blockages in your heart and your emotional self, where you just feel emotionally kind of flat a little bit. And so those are just some examples of how this goes much deeper than just the physiological implications. It's really a mirror for the life you have lived up until that point. Your hair is helping your body to tell the truth of that. And so taking this test is really an act of devotion to your body so you can really understand her, listen to her truth, and act on it. And then from there, what I recommend, whether you work with me or you work alone on your plan, is to get retested quarterly. So that way you can see how your mineral ratios, your toxic exposure is improving. This allows us to kind of continue to make sure that your custom supplementation is on point, and it gives you that checkup every quarter. So that's how it works. And this is how I can support you through everything that we've journeyed through. These are heavy topics that I don't recommend working through alone. Whether you are in the Facebook group and interacting there in community, or you gain a friend, sister friend from this community, or we work together, please do not try to go through this alone. So if you feel the truth of this in your body this week, your next step is really simple. Find someone in community so that you're not alone, whether it's a community member in our Facebook group, a friend, a family member in your own life that's already there for you, or coaching with me and my colleagues. Do not do this alone. Get your test ran as soon as you can. And I just want to mention that this test is HSA and FSA eligible potentially. So if you need that as a recourse to follow, to use to cover your expense, please let me know and I'll send you a custom link to do that. You also have the option to have a payment plan and break this into 2 payments. You can use Klarna, you can use Afterpay if you need to break it down into even smaller increments. So my prayer is that this helps us to make it more accessible so you can run your test today and begin personalizing today. So I don't want to end on like a truly like mental analytical note. I want us to end in these bodies. So take a moment to just close your eyes if you want, or find a soft spot to focus in on. Take some deep breaths and put one hand on your heart space, one hand on your womb space. And breathe into the part of you that has always known the truth. That deep core of your being. Breathe into that part of you. Let that part of you come to the forefront. Feel her, the version of you that is feeling healed, stable, and grounded. Breathe here and feel into that groundedness. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Let your belly soften. Breathe. Let the pelvic soften. Let the yoni soften. And ask your body, what is my next right step? What is my next right step? You are your healer. Your body knows the truth. Your minerals are just messengers. And your journey back home to this core self has already begun. Again, my prayer is that this challenge is more like a reinitiation into your body truth. Let it spark your consciousness and your courage to take the right next step for you. All right, y'all, that's it for now. If you need me, please do send a message.